everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Hiba, and here on my channel I discuss recent missing person cases. If you're into that type of content, go ahead and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Today I have a very exciting announcement about the Kandi Green Gonzalez case. However, before I get into that, I just want to provide you with a brief background about Kandi. I started covering this case over a year ago, so it's been quite a while now. I have a whole playlist dedicated to Kandi, so check that out if you want all the details, and it'll be linked down below. Like I said though, I will provide you with a brief overview. Kandi is a 36-year-old woman who's been missing from Prestonsburg, Kentucky since June 1st, 2021. She went missing after being thrown out by her boyfriend of approximately 2 years, Jeff Blackburn, who also happens to be the son of the former sheriff of the county. After being thrown out, Kandi was last seen on a property on Abbott Creek Road, basically begging for help. Following this incident, which we do have video of, she ran towards the creek, visibly distressed. Her shoes were discovered in that same creek 2 days later. However, it wasn't discovered by law enforcement, but by her family. Kandi hasn't been seen or heard from since. I'm going to include some clips just to give you a little bit more background here.
Kandi was last seen in a yard on Abbott Creek Road, essentially pleading for help from a neighbor. She explained that she had been kicked out by her boyfriend, Jeff Blackburn, and asked for her mother to be called. The neighbor agreed to call for Kandi, but the call went to voicemail. The caller did leave a message, and in this message, Kandi could be heard in the background desperately calling out for her mother.
Listen, I have your daughter. She says she's your daughter in my yard. She's asked me to call you, but she's and Jeff apparently has kicked her out. No, it's not fun. I thought that's what you were saying, Mom. Hey, Mom. It's voicemail, honey. Mommy. Oh, it's voicemail. That's why I was trying to just say.
In this recording, we hear the caller say, "Listen, I have your daughter. She says she's your daughter in my yard. She's asked me to call you, but she's," and then there's a pause, and she says, "and Jeff apparently has kicked her out." After this, we hear what sounds like a chuckle from the caller. I initially wondered if it could have been the woman coughing because it does kind of sound like a cough. However, it sounds like she proceeds to say, "No, it's not funny," and I thought that's what you were saying.
And Jeff apparently has kicked her out. No, it's not fun. I thought that's what you were saying.
While the neighbor making the call is telling Kandi that it's a voicemail, Kandi very clearly chimes in and says, "Mom, hey Mom, Mommy, please help me, help me."
Mom. Hey, Mom. It's voicemail, honey. Mommy. Oh, it's voicemail. That's why I was trying to just say.
Hearing this is absolutely heartbreaking, and I can't imagine how Kandi's mom felt when she heard it. In my opinion, you can hear the fear in Kandi's voice. Her voice was clearly trembling. I also think it's bizarre that this woman could hear and see Kandi visibly distressed, especially after she made that phone call, and then proceed to kick her off of the property, like she does in the video footage we have.
I need you to get out of this yard, or come talk to me, one of the two. Don't play on me. You are on our land. I need to understand why. I need you not to mess with the crops.
After being told to get off the property and being taunted by a group of men who were recording Kandi, she fled from the yard and ran into the creek. This was the last time that Kandi was reportedly seen. Kandi's shoes were found in the creek, and while some people believed that her trail ended there, we actually learned that she did make it out of the creek and up a hillside. According to her family, Kandi's footprints led back towards her home. In fact, her footprints were seen across the road that Kandi lived on. Unfortunately, we don't know what happened from here. I don't mean to necessarily blame this woman or the boys involved here, but I do think that their behavior could have changed the outcome here. For those that claim that Kandi was out of her mind or in some sort of induced state, I just want to emphasize that Kandi was able to give this woman her mom's number. She was able to tell her what was happening to her and that she needed help. It seems like she was even coherent enough to realize that she wasn't being taken seriously, which is why she might have spoken directly to her mother in the voicemail and why she eventually fled the yard.
If you want additional details, like I said, go check out the playlist. But now for the exciting news that I mentioned in the beginning of this video. So I started a petition for Kandi, basically highlighting how law enforcement dropped the ball in this case.
Like we all know by now, law enforcement has not been very helpful in the search for Kandi. I've created a petition on change.org to put some pressure on the Kentucky State Police and on the Floyd County Sheriff's Office to do their jobs and to potentially bring other agencies in if necessary.
I will read that petition now.
An appeal for the FBI to aid in the investigation and search for Kandi Green Gonzalez. While the FBI will typically assist only at the request of local law enforcement, it's clear that there's been a mishandling of Kandi Green Gonzalez's case from the very beginning. The first 48 hours after a person disappears are the most crucial. As with every passing hour, the likelihood of finding the person decreases. It took investigators 80-plus hours to begin searching for Kandi Green Gonzalez following her disappearance. On June 1, 2021, 36-year-old Kandi Green Gonzalez disappeared from Prestonsburg, Kentucky. The day of her disappearance, Kandi was thrown out by her boyfriend of approximately 2 years, Jeff Blackburn. She was last seen on a property on Abbott Creek Road, where she asked for her mother to be called. Unfortunately, the call went to voicemail. Kandi, visibly distressed, was then seen running through the yard and into a creek. Kandi's family discovered her shoes in the creek the day following her disappearance. Despite being notified of this finding, the Kentucky State Police did not collect the shoes. In fact, the KSP initially instructed the family to retrieve the shoes, disregarding that this could tamper with any potential evidence. It wasn't until 3 days later, on Saturday, June 5th, that the KSP came to gather the shoes. At this time, the KSP would also conduct their first search of the area. The area was searched for 30 to 45 minutes using a cadaver dog. Following the search on Saturday, June 5th, Kandi's family pleaded with the KSP and the Floyd County Sheriff's Office to continue to search for Kandi. After receiving little aid from law enforcement, the family brought in independent search and rescue teams and continued to search for Kandi themselves. On June 19th, 17 days following her disappearance, the Floyd County Sheriff's Office finally assisted in the search for Kandi. Not only was this 6-hour search conducted over 2 weeks after her disappearance, but it was also announced days in advance. After the search did not yield anything, Sheriff John Hunt described Kandi's disappearance as just the weirdest thing in the world. Hunt went on to mention that members of the community have called to explain that they've searched their own barns and homes to try to help us rule out places that we don't have to go back and search. While any and all community effort in finding Kandi is greatly appreciated, it's expected that the Floyd County Sheriff's Office thoroughly investigates her disappearance as a public safety agency. While numerous independent search and rescue organizations have offered to help the Floyd County Sheriff's Office and the Kentucky State Police with Kandi's disappearance, it has been continually refused, along with aid from neighboring law enforcement. Help bring Kandi home.
I'm happy to share that we've reached over 5,000 signatures on that petition. That's literally more than the whole population of Prestonsburg where Kandi disappeared from. That's 5,000 people demanding answers for Kandi. This wouldn't have been possible without the help of other creators like Scott H., Dazed and Confused, and Arctic Fox, who have been actively covering this case recently. So now that we've reached 5,000 signatures, it's on to the next steps. I will personally be reaching out to my media contacts who have covered this case to tell them about this milestone and to try to get more coverage for Kandi. I'll also be reaching out to the Floyd County Sheriff's Office with the petition and ask them for a comment and for any updates. You can help by continuing to share Kandi's story with anyone and everyone that you can. Again, thank you all so much. This really wouldn't be possible without you.